Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. I'm delighted to be here. And also on behalf of Green Chemistry Centre of Excellence, Department of Chemistry, we're proud to be signatories for the Green Chemistry Commitment. So be delighted to be part of this programme. I'm going to give a talk about decolonizing the curriculum through a concept known as Matharu Plots. But how do we start a conversation around decolonisation of STEM subjects, and in particular, for example, green chemistry? How do we get students to reflect on the activity, but also importantly, how do we get students to deliver a meaningful programme of work? And that's the concept. And I've been trialling this for 18 months. And just last week, some of this work was published in Nature. So from a zero standpoint, a leap of faith, now it's hit mainstream, and as I say, it was published in Nature last week. So I'm going to take you through the journey and the story and why I started this concept. And I always like to start with anything new. I do this with all of my researchers. I pose them a question, you know, our minds are like parachutes, okay? Question mark. And hopefully they should come up with the answer that they work best when open. And that's what we need to be. At the moment, our educational system, our education practices are very much closed. Okay, we learn a set curriculum. There's only one way to do things. Okay, and we're driven by examinations that are based on a set curriculum. So the opportunity to be open, to be innovative, just isn't there. But this is something that we welcome at University of York. We welcome this on our programs, and we tell students, please be open in your thinking, okay? And to move away from this concept where someone says, oh well, it can't be done, okay? And question that. And obviously things can't be done if there's a health and safety requirement, absolutely. But often the best discoveries are when people are given the opportunity to explore. So hopefully everyone on virtual audience today keeps an open mind, and I really welcome that. So how did I start this journey of decolonizing research? And often people talk about, knowledge is opportunity. Absolutely, that is true. But who has that opportunity? And that opportunity is restricted. So this is an old map of global north and global south. So the global north is in blue, the global south is in red, and I probably haven't got all the colours right, okay? But it's a fair representation of the world at the moment. So we know that 89% of the population live in the global south. Now, if we look at this map differently, and we look at a colonial map, then we can see certainly that in terms of colonial map, this little dot here, this small little island, Great Britain, okay, controlled vast regions of the globe, okay? As did, countries across Northern Europe control vast regions of the globe. And this small island, who assumed that everybody else was the rest of the world, it's actually wrong. We are just a dot. Okay? And what we've done as a small island, a small nation, okay, we've delivered our knowledge across all these various territories. We've dictated the knowledge that they should learn. So then again to this concept that restricted knowledge is dangerous power, because you can then suppress groups of people. Okay? You can suppress minds. And often, when you hear about people talking about decolonization and decolonization in the curriculum, often it's, name your favorite scientists. And historically, especially in the UK, historically, it's typically been white male scientists. So from Isaac Newton to Watson and Crick, okay, to Einstein. And that's changed. So now we do have gender balance, but predominantly it's still white oriented, either male or female. But this is still dangerous power. And especially here, Watson and Crick, and obviously we know the story behind Watson and Crick. You know, for many years, they didn't acknowledge Rosalind Franklin. It's only recently now beginning to acknowledge Rosalind Franklin. But this is James Watson, 10 years ago, who publicly made the following statements in an open forum. And these statements are absolutely abhorrent, that black people are intrinsically less intelligent than whites. So these are high-profile, glorified scientists who then have the power, and it's dangerous power, to come out with comments, absolutely unacceptable comments of this type. That's just one that I've read out. And I really, to be honest with you, I don't like reading the others out. They're there for you to read. It always makes me feel very uneasy when I have to say out those words. But we know, the brilliance of non-white scientists. And my favorite scientist in the world of green chemistry is George Washington Carver. And I'm often astounded, just within the green chemistry community, how many, there are just a few researchers who actually know about George Washington Carver. Okay. Everybody knows about Paul Anastas and John Warner, but hardly ever anybody talks about George Washington Carver, who has a museum named after him. Okay. He was responsible for over 300 patents, worked with Henry Ford, okay, did all the work on biomass and renewable resources long before it became fashionable. Green Chemistry Principle 7, use of renewable resources, George Washington Carver was doing this many, many years ago. Okay? And then again, at the bottom here, we've got three brilliant scientists from NASA. Okay? So the three female scientists that work for NASA and responsible for the Apollo space mission. And obviously there's a film after the three scientists. The film is The Hidden Figures. So it's really, really important that we totally understand, or we begin to understand, the background to some of our traditional classical researchers, but also explore the wealth or hidden wealth that's out there of some brilliant, brilliant knowledge. So for me, in terms of decolonization of research here in the UK, so I'll give the UK point of view. There's a strong drive from our student body to have a decolonized curriculum. So our students get it. Our leadership team, okay, so our Vice Chancellor, our Vice Chancellor's office, they get it. Okay? And often the issue that we have is the issue of what I call the sticky middle, which is layers of bureaucracy and management to make change. Excuse me. And I'm just going to show this on this diagram here. Essentially, this is my scientific diagram. Okay, and the red stuff isn't blood in the back, that's jam or syrup, that's the sticky middle. So here, this could be our student body who get it. We've got a layer of academic colleagues, okay, some who will listen, okay, but take it no further. Some that'll listen and take it through to the leadership team, but nevertheless, they get stuck in committee after committee. And eventually, over time, it gets to the leadership team. So I was very mindful of that, and I wanted to prevent that aspect. So I wanted to be in control of what I wanted to deliver. And one thing that I'm in control of is our highly successful Masters in Green Chemistry and Sustainable Industrial Technology program. It's a one-year master's program. Typically, we have 30 students every year on that program, and we have students from all over the world. Okay? And our mantra is united in creating a better planet. And I thought, let me explore, let me start to have the conversation, okay, with a cohort that I'm in control of, okay, rather than going through layers and layers of management and delaying what I want to do several years. So what is it? What did I start to do? What was the idea? How did I start the conversation on decolonization without making it too academic heavy? Okay. I pulled out a research dissertation from about 3 years ago, and this research dissertation was around coffee production and the coffee supply chain. Excuse me. So the dissertation was around coffee production, coffee supply chain, and coffee supply chain waste. So this map here represents coffee producing countries, and the larger the circle, the higher the production volume. So imagine this is a research dissertation, an MSc research project. It's 100 credits. It's about 15 to 20,000 words report. And we can see that coffee production is predominantly in the global south, okay? Hardly any activity in the global north. And then I went to the bibliography or reference section, and I started to interrogate the literature. And I stopped after reference 2627, and all I was doing was looking at refereed articles in primary journals, and I was looking at the country of origin of the I was looking at the country of corresponding author's institution. Okay, that's information I could easily gather from the reference. And very clearly, very early on, I could see a bias towards literature from mainland Europe and US. And yet, the project is all about coffee production and coffee. And excuse me for a second. Okay, I do apologize. So I was really surprised that the literature was already biased, and there were very, very few references from the coffee producing countries. So this was the start of a Matharu plot and developing an infographic. And in a couple of slides, I'll show you what these infographics look like. So this is the idea, and I could see a bias. And we then get the students, okay, to produce what's known as a Matharu plot or a Matharu plot in the form of a one-page infographic. And what the students have to do is to visually show the distribution of their research literature, where are they citing papers from, but then also to write a narrative as to why they see that distribution. So there could be many, many reasons why the distribution may be skewed to particular parts of the world, but it starts the conversation, which is often the hardest thing to do. So now I've opened their minds to look wider than what would be traditional literature that they've always searched. If we are to change culture, and if we are to make a difference, we can't carry on doing the same thing. And that often reflects itself in citations, where we get into a habit of citing the same authors continually. And we don't give an opportunity to researchers, some brilliant researchers who never get cited because we just don't look in those areas, okay, or those regions of the world. And on this particular slide, just at the bottom here, the student here has written, this was an interesting topic to consider while conducting my review, and certainly made me think about the origin of papers on a deeper level. And that there, without the student realizing that they're decolonizing their research, have suddenly bought into the concept. And it is as easy as that, without making it into a heavy, heavy module on decolonization of research. So they're carrying out the research project, they're reading literature all the time, and all they're doing is just totting up, okay, the corresponding author and their institution and where they're based in the world. Okay. Now, this is formative. This enables me to have a discussion, and it enables me to have a period of reflection with the student. This doesn't count towards their degree. And as I said, I'm in control of this program, and this is the first of its kind where we now have marks awarded for decolonisation of research, and those marks contribute to their final degree outcome. And that's a game changer. So now we're going from formative to summative. And when we make that transition, this is what we see. This is student work. This is what they are producing now as one-page infographics. These are two infographics side by side. Okay, so you can see straight away that these are visually appealing. They're attractive, they're interesting, they're informative. Okay, the students now, okay, are looking wider than the narrow countries that they did previously. So they are exploring global research rather than just research from the global north. Okay, and they're adding a narrative as to why they're seeing this distribution. Okay? So these two infographics are very easy to produce, and they're eye-catching and visually appealing. And here's another one. Okay? So students then also, have their own input into this. Okay? So we can award marks for visual appeal, clarity, etc. But also the narrative is also important. And then finally, my last two slides here. So where am I with Matharu Plots? Absolutely, we're now beginning to change the culture. So just within my university, at the moment, I've rolled this out on our master's program, but ideally want to roll this out to all PhDs. So anyone who submits a PhD thesis should have a one-page infographic that shows the distribution of their research literature plus a narrative. I think it's really, really important that we begin to open their minds to global research. Here today, okay, in the virtual audience, you're all educators, okay? So I'm delighted to present this to you, but also see, get your thoughts on the concept. A concept that's simple, quick, effective, impactful. It allows a reflection, but also it's not just for STEM. Okay, we can do this concept with any discipline, and importantly, it changes culture. And again, I've spoke about journals, so I'm working with all the publishing houses, and the idea here with the publishing houses is when you submit a manuscript, we're all used to submitting table of contents or graphical abstracts. You also submit a one-page infographic showing the literature that you're citing in your manuscript. And as I said, just last week, this has appeared in Nature. It's a much wider article. The chemistry department of York, we're at the forefront of decolonisation of research. And within this article, it's a 3-page article. I'm just showing the first page and the last page, but there is a middle page which also reflects on wider initiatives within my department. And just within this article, we've got a quote from Arinze, who's one of my former master's students, and it's nice that the students are saying that it's easy to compile. The results are stark. It's an eye-opener, okay, and that's to their own bias. Okay, so Arinze was from Nigeria, and he was always taught that the British system is the best system in the world, and you should always cite British literature. So it brings out all of these discussions and narratives. And on that note, my next slide will be my last one. So thank you for listening. Thank you, and apologies for coughing halfway through.